Hello everyone. Hello everyone and welcome to Unbox Coffee Break. I want to thank you for joining me, for staying in touch, for sending me all your thoughts and comments on what to talk about in Coffee Break. So it gives me great pleasure to be back because I skipped the last two coffee breaks, and this is because a lot of things have happened in the last 10 days, and it was just a bit daunting to find the balance to digest it all. My beloved cousin passed away, and then the week after, it was the first anniversary of my mother passing away. And what also happened in that week is I had a great interview with the Green Sheikh. Totally loved it. Everyone loved it. Thank you for your comments again. So that was like a big thing for me to do across multimedia channels. And then I had my first online seminar on relationship, which went fantastically well. I want to thank all of you who have signed up and joined. So much seemed to have happened in a span of a week or 10 days. And I found myself wanting to find the balance in what was happening in life. And as you know, if you have listened to Unbox Coffee Break before, if you've been following me, you know that Unbox mentoring is all about finding your balance. And it just also made me think about what is special about life, what makes our life special, if you like. So tonight I want to share with you my journey, if you will. We're going to talk about looking after the elderly, and I wanted to share with you what was it like to share the last 7 years with mom living with me here in Dubai. My husband and I moved, my belated husband and I moved here because of his work, and then mom came to visit. She suddenly wasn't feeling well, she fell, and then we discovered a whole bunch of things, and it was my husband who said, no, your mom is staying with us. And that was the best thing for all of us, actually, because the last 7 years were absolutely wonderful. She was 85 when she came. She was 92 when she passed away. And to have her around me in my life, to look after her those past 7 years, has been the most wonderful, amazing, and rewarding experience. I never had enough of my mother. I sort of left home when I was 14 at my request. I went to boarding school in England, and then university, college, and then work. And then suddenly the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait took place, and we all had to move and leave and be unsettled. My brother immigrated to Australia, my sister went to Canada, and then I went to England. So I really missed her. My father passed away in 95. I really missed being with mom. I missed being with my brother too. I think we lost him too soon. But I think parents, grandparents, if you're looking after your grandparents, but especially parents, is really important because it is where you come from. And if your life is a movie, as I always almost say that, if your life is a movie, what is your life about? Why did you choose that setup? Why did you choose that background, that family, that culture, that country that you come from? And it's just interesting because if you happen to be fortunate enough to look after your elderly, it allows you to make sense of your own life. Well, at least it certainly did for me. Because there's a reason for choosing our parents, I think. And when I went to boarding school in England, I found 2 years ago, we went back to Jordan, my sister, my mother and I, and we sorted out the place. And I found that my father had kept all these letters that we've sent him as children all over the years. And I found a letter that I sent to my parents, thanking them for being my parents and saying that I chose well. I don't know where that idea came from. I was only 14. But I felt it was really important to thank them. I was fortunate enough to have amazing parents. Even if you are not, there's a reason why you did not have amazing parents. Maybe it was for you to learn what it is to be an amazing parent. So my point is this: what makes our life special? And I think what makes our life special is the depth of the connections that we make with loved ones. If we didn't have that connection, how can we make sense of life? After they've gone, we're carrying on with our lives. What is our lives about? And when I reflect back in my experience, it was all these wonderful memories that they gave me that helped me to keep going on to unbox the rest of my life. Many of you know that I was totally, I wouldn't say disoriented, but life lost its flavor, and it was a big deal to kind of find my footing again, to find purpose again, that to connect with whatever I was passionate about, to allow me to continue this journey. And I thought sharing it with you gives you that experience, that hopefully it will inspire you to make some sense, to live your life, to find your balance, and to do what you need to do. So when you look after the elderly, it's a daunting big task, but do remember the depth of the connection is what makes it really interesting, is what makes it really rewarding. Of course, there's a trend here, and I want you to be aware, if you're not looking after anyone, reflect on your relationship with your parents or with your elderly. What is your relationship like? What do they mean to you? Why did you choose them, if we do choose them? How can you make sense of your life because of the lineage or the parenting or the background that you came from? To me, it added sense to what is the meaning of my life and what is my purpose. And that helped me to continue to look after my mom. My mom was an amazing woman, very enlightened woman, very self-aware woman. Both my parents were. And if I can summarize it, I think there are two issues here. One is emotional and one is practical. So the key is keeping your balance, which is really the cornerstone of Unbox Life Mentoring, because if you keep your balance, you will be in alignment. Remember, we often speak about the 4 dimensions of change. So if you are in alignment, then that means you are in the flow of life, and your life will continue to unfold in the way that is desirable, in what you desire, in the way that you want it to. It's a huge responsibility looking after the elderly, and I think, it's a big subject, but I just want to share a few points. There are really 2 main points. One is practical and one is emotional. The practical point is about really getting to know what is their condition exactly, because the body kind of starts regressing. Not necessarily, but in general, especially maybe here in our culture, people kind of give up too early. They don't stay active. They don't do things. Of course, it's not a rule, but there are always exceptions to the rule. But it's a mindset thing, I think. My mom didn't have that mindset. She loved life. She loved every minute that she lived. But there were practical issues. There were certain problems that were chronic, that were building up over a period of time. And practically, I had to know exactly what is her condition in order to look after her well. I had to educate myself literally on her medical background. I've had some experience looking after my brother and my father, but I really learned. I learned to read blood reports. I had enlisted the support of 3 friends, cousins who were doctors in order to understand what was going on. So what is their condition, the people whom you're looking after? What do they need? What are the things that you need to look for? Because I have seen some people who rely on other people in order to look after their elderly, but then there isn't that understanding of what is the medical condition, because the elderly can deteriorate very, very quickly. So their lives are literally hanging in the balance. So you need to kind of have that practical experience. I think it's kind of like a cop-out to say, well, I don't understand it, they have a carer, or let the nurse deal with it, because they really don't. If you care about them, you need to apply a little bit of yourself. You need to apply some effort in order to understand what is their condition. The point is to enable you to make the right decisions. In the Middle East in general, people don't like to tell their elderly what they have, what their condition is. In the West, when I lived in England, it's a lot easier. You actually discuss your death, you discuss the end of your life, and you try to sort things out. And we were fortunate enough with my parents that they were open to the idea of sorting their earthly affairs, things like that. And if they're at that age, you need to talk about these things, because when the time comes, it just makes it a lot easier to get over emotionally, knowing that you've done your best, you've wrapped up their lives as well as you could. And that gives me great serenity and peace, knowing that I've done everything that is humanly possible to give her the end of the life that she wished for. So try and find out practically what is their condition, educate yourself slightly medically, find support. Who can support you mentally, emotionally, practically, regardless of what your situation is. It could be a friend that you talk to. It could be doctors that you get to know in order to understand. Ask the questions, face the situation. In my experience, I found it a lot easier to cope with stuff knowing practically what the situation is. My sister is great with internet research, so she did all the background research. She was always like texting, sending information, exercises that mom could do, things like that. It was fantastic support. In fact, my mother also asked, please get help. You need help. You can't cope with me on your own. It's amazing. If your parents, your elderly, are not like that, you need to think. You need to look after yourself. You need to maintain your own balance. But at the same time, you probably feel obliged, or you need to do what you need to do. Who can support you? Doctors, carers, friends. Like literally sit down and support yourself by thinking about these things. Practically, what can you do to sort out their life? That is very, very important. It will give them peace of mind. And to what extent do they need you? In the West, it may be a lot easier because we have homes for the elderly, things like that. In the Middle East, and I'm telling my viewers from abroad, it isn't something that is talked about. Generally, the elderly will not say, if I get to the point where I'm impinging on your life, please put me in a home. There aren't any homes that I know of. Of course, there are a few, but it's not the general thing that is done at the end of somebody's life. Before my husband passed away, I was a little bit surprised because he was reading a book to the effect of The Art of the Dying, how to wrap up your life. And I thought how wonderful that he could really face that and be at peace with it. And I read the book later on, and I keep thinking, how can I wrap up my life, my affairs, let me say, in a way that others don't feel very responsible, or that I don't impinge on their lives. So it's a good thing for you, it's a good thing for them to think about these practical things, because it's a weight off the shoulders. And once that's discussed and done, then you can take off practical issues. I've received a few messages from followers here across the Middle East, sharing with me their experience of looking after their elderly. And some found it really draining, really impinging, and it wasn't a pleasant experience because the elderly were not cooperating with them. So what I'm trying to tell you is look at the patterns that have been established over the last few years in your life. For me, every relationship is a two-way street. And you need to raise your parents as they raised you. In the Middle East, yes, you respect, you love them, but maybe the parents are not so open to discussing things, or open to getting to know you as an adult. So when we are grown up and we want to get to know our parents and enjoy being with them as an adult, they're probably at an age where their bodies are failing them, and they are towards the dawn or the sunset of their life. So how do we deal with that? So regardless of how they feel, and this may sound really tough, you need to practice tough love. You need to say, if all the requirements are done, everything, because they do become emotionally dependent on you, and they will be overly demanding. But so long as their health is well, everything is fine, don't be afraid to say, no, I need my own time for myself. But to be fair enough, do put yourself in their place. Their bodies are flailing, there are chronic pains, which creates tension. They know, they are aware that they are at the end of their lives. So they're dealing with quite a lot, and it is really a lot to deal with. So give them, allow them that, forgive them for that, allow them that space to be a little bit grouchy, a little bit whatever they're feeling. That's normal. And from my experience, and I'm not a doctor, but this is what I've witnessed, is there are similar patterns between all the elderly, around family and friends. There are patterns that they will be overly demanding. There are patterns that they'll call you all the time. There are patterns, even my friends in England have suffered from the same thing. And that just kind of made me laugh. And it doesn't matter where you come from and what culture. It seems to me that this is how we age. We want our loved ones around us. We want that support. We don't want to impinge on others, but somehow our children are okay. At the same time, I was pushing back my boundaries. There were times when I said, Mom, no, you're fine. You have your carer. I need to go out with my friends, because if you don't, the pressure of looking after someone can physically impinge on you. And if you're not okay, if you're not centered, you're okay, you're well enough, you can't continue, you're literally crumble. So don't be afraid to do that, even though your parents may not be used to it. I think it's really important to kind of start building that two-way relationship. So look after yourself as you look after others as well. And remember that thing about two-way street. It's not just one way. You need help, you need support, ask for it, understand what the conditions are, educate yourself a little bit, sit with your siblings or other family members and ask for help. Who can do what? Physical body, you can still do quite a lot when they get older. I learned all about exercises, gentle exercises, even yoga exercises. What can you do? It's important to keep the muscles well enough, because it's the muscles that move the joints. Circulation is very important. Breathing is very important. My sister got my mom a machine so that she could breathe, to lower her blood pressure, to help her breathe deeply and relax. Whatever there was, anything. She was really quite willing and open. But even if they're not, you need to push, because I noticed that the elderly get stubborn. Some may say, okay, it's dementia, maybe, but the human body starts deteriorating after 24. And really, dementia is about the brain shrinking. Your brain will shrink, all of our brains will shrink, especially if we're not being active, if we're not using exercises to stay mentally aware. So the mental awareness is very important. And I think to put the elderly, for example, in a home, unnecessarily, if their health is okay, they lose that connectivity, they lose that stimulation. Of course, if your situation dictates it, absolutely fine, but do maintain some kind of connection. I think hobbies are very important. I used to read mom stories because to keep the attention going. You also have books on tapes or audio books, things like that. Towards the end, their vision may deteriorate. So TV, watching things on YouTube wasn't useful anymore. Understanding that the body does deteriorate depending on their history, on their life story. If it had been a traumatic one, the body will suffer. But you understanding what you're dealing with will make it a lot easier. Generally, in the Middle East, it's the women who look after their mothers. I don't know why. If the son can look after their mom, why not? Or their father, why not? We certainly all did look after our parents. But it is a real issue. How much does the son get involved? What can he do? Even his presence, to pass by, to have conversations, to keep the mind alert, stimulated, read the newspapers, whatever it is, there's lots that they can do, but ask for it. Don't deal with everything on your own, because you will collapse. And I do know a follower who is suffering from that issue, dealing with everything that is to do with her mom, and her three other brothers aren't doing as much. In fact, one of them is completely denying the responsibility. One element of dealing with the emotional aspect is denial. We are in denial that they're growing up. They are in denial that they're growing older. Everyone is in denial that the body has its own energy. So I'm not just talking about the person, but this is something that I've learned from healing over the years, that the body does have its own energy, like a car, it's wear and tear. So their will to live may be there, but the physical body is deteriorating, and this is a difficult thing, a difficult issue to come to terms with. And you just need to understand that, because it will help you to cope with the journey that you are on, and it will help you to cope with whatever is happening in your life. I hope that made sense. I want to thank you for tuning in and joining me again, and I want to thank everyone who's attended the webinar. And I also want to tell you that I will be launching live Q&A in my Facebook group. It's called the Unbox group. So find it, join it, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions there. We'll probably start with once a month, see how it goes. And I am also thinking of doing coffee break just twice a week to allow me to work on the material, but also to allow me to work on other material that I'd like to bring forward, so you can truly begin to unbox your life. If you have enjoyed these coffee breaks, do let me know. Please leave your comments because it helps me to keep going. It fuels ideas for future coffee breaks. And do remember, you are all entitled to 1 hour, 40 minutes discovery session with me. If anything is holding you back, fill the online form, send it to me, and you can have one-to-one, and let me help you to begin to unbox your life. I hope you're well, stay well, look after yourself, get to know people you love deeply, deepen your connection with them. It's all about making memories, and keep going through, make new memories, and enjoy life. Life is all about joining, but find your balance. Take care, stay well, see you next time.